So, I picked up that late shift at the petrol station, right? Dead quiet, as usual. Just me, the flickering fluorescent lights, and the hum of the fridges. About 2 a.m., I'm restocking the crisps, and I notice this car pull up. Old thing, a rusty Ford, one of those you barely see anymore. An old woman gets out, real thin, pale as paper with these dark, sunken eyes. She's wearing a long gray coat, even though it wasn't that cold. I get a weird feeling, like she's out of place. She comes in, doesn't say a word, just stares at me. Not a hostile stare, but empty, like she's looking through me. She walks straight to the back, to the aisle with the bottled water. Fine, whatever. A few minutes go by and I'm back at the till scrolling through my phone. Then I hear it, a faint tapping, like someone's tapping their fingernails on glass. Tap, tap, tap. I look up and she's standing at the end of the aisle facing the wall, her back to me. The tapping's louder now, more insistent. Tap, tap, tap. I call out, "Everything all right, madam?" No response, just the tapping. I walk down the aisle and as I get closer I see she's not tapping the water bottles. She's tapping on the emergency exit door at the back, the one that's always locked. I ask again, "Madam, is there something I can help you with?" She turns around, slowly. Her eyes are even darker now and she's got this faint, almost imperceptible smile. "They're thirsty," she whispers, her voice like dry leaves rustling. "Who's thirsty?" I ask, but she just turns back to the door and starts tapping again. Faster this time. Tap, 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 tap. I'm getting seriously creeped out now. I grab my phone, ready to call the police, but then she stops. She turns to me, her eyes wide, and says, "They need to drink." Then she reaches out and puts her hand on the emergency exit handle. I shout, "Don't!" But it's too late. She pulls the handle and the door swings open. There's nothing there, just a solid brick wall. There's never been anything but a brick wall behind that door. She looks at me, her smile wider now, and whispers, "They're waiting." Then she walks straight through the brick wall and disappears. I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. I checked the door, the wall, everything. Nothing. No sign of her. I called the police, obviously. They came, looked around, said I was probably seeing things. They checked the CCTV, but there was no footage of her at all. It was like she never existed. But I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and every time I close my eyes I see her, tapping on that door and hear her whispering, "They're waiting." And I swear sometimes I can still hear the tapping, even when I'm not at work. Tap, tap, tap. So, first night, everything's fine. We get there, it's pitch black obviously, but the cabin's cozy, the fire's roaring. I'm thinking, this is exactly what I needed. We play some cards, have a few drinks, classic cabin stuff. Then we go to bed. I'm in the spare room so as not to wake Sarah with my snoring. Small, just a bed and a window. I'm drifting off and I hear this scratching, like nails on wood. At first, I think it's just a branch against the window, but it's rhythmic, almost deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I get up, check the window. Nothing, no branches, no animals, just the dark woods. I go back to bed, thinking I'm just being paranoid. But then it starts again, louder this time. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I'm starting to freak out a bit, I'm not gonna lie. I grab my phone, turn on the flashlight, and scan the room. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the scratching keeps going, like it's coming from inside the walls. Then, I hear this. Whispering. It's faint, barely audible, but it's definitely there. It sounds like someone's right next to my ear, but there's no one there. I can't make out the words, just this low, breathy whisper. I'm terrified at this point. I'm literally shaking. I try to wake Sarah, but she's dead to the world. So I'm stuck there, listening to the scratching and the whispering, until the sun starts to come up. And here's the really weird part. When the sun came up, the scratching and the whispering stopped. Just like that. Gone. I went outside, checked the walls of the cabin, nothing unusual. I even checked the attic and the crawl space. Nothing. But later that day, when Sarah and I were hiking, we found this old, overgrown cemetery, like deep in the woods. And one of the tombstones, it was half buried, but I could make out the name. Elias Thorne. And under the name, it said, died in his sleep. I swear, I'm not making this up. We went back to the cabin, and I looked up Elias Thorne online. Apparently, he was a recluse who lived in the area 100 years ago. He was found dead in his cabin. He'd been clawing at the walls before he died, his fingernails torn and bloody. And the cabin we were staying in? It was built on the same spot as his old cabin. I showed Sarah the tombstone, and she went white as a sheet. We packed our stuff and left that place so fast. I haven't slept properly since. I keep hearing the scratching, even when I'm at home, and sometimes I swear I can still hear that whispering. I don't know what it was, but I know it wasn't just my imagination. I think we disturbed something. Something that wanted to be left alone. The hospital doors hissed shut behind me, the cool air of the ward replaced by the warm, thick summer night. Crickets chirped a relentless rhythm from the undergrowth bordering the national park, a sound that usually soothed me. Tonight, though, it was just a background hum to my conversation. Yeah, another long one, I said into my phone, my girlfriend Sarah on the other end. Trauma unit was packed, but at least it's over. Just be careful walking home, okay? She said, her voice laced with a familiar worry. I will. It's a beautiful night anyway. Saves on the bus fare. Every penny counts, right? I grinned, even though she couldn't see me. I was saving for my first car, a battered old hatchback I'd seen advertised online. The park route was longer, an hour at least, but it was peaceful, and the night air was a welcome change from the sterile hospital atmosphere. We talked for most of the way, about her day, my shift, our plans for the weekend. The path was well-worn, dark. It was hard to see where I was walking, but I knew the route like the back of my hand. I'd grown up only half a mile from here. This area was my playground when I was growing up. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. I felt a sense of calm, a quiet satisfaction. By the time I reached my flat, the sky was beginning to lighten. I said goodnight to Sarah. I had only a 7-hour turnaround before I needed to be back for the day shift. I plugged my phone in and collapsed into bed, exhausted but content. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birds in the trees. Another beautiful summer's day. I glanced at my watch. Late. I'd overslept. I threw on my uniform and rushed out the door, retracing my steps back through the park. As I approached the park entrance, I saw a cluster of police cars and vans. Yellow tape cordoned off sections of the path. A group of walkers stood talking to the officers, their faces etched with concern. "What's going on?" I asked, approaching one of the officers. "This an area you come to often, sir?" he asked, his eyes scanning me. "Yeah, I was here just last night," I replied, confused. He nodded, then gestured for me to step aside. "Could you remove your shoes for me, please?" I did as I was told, watching as he carefully examined the soles of my sneakers. Then he spoke into his radio, and I was escorted to a police car. At the local station, I was placed in an interview room, my confusion mounting. I had no idea what was happening. Eventually, an officer sat down opposite me. "Mr. Davies, we're investigating an incident that occurred in the national park last night. Someone set a series of traps along the path, old rabbit snares, rusty and rigged to cause serious injury. We found them this morning, thanks to a park ranger." He paused, then continued. "Your shoe prints were found all along the path, right through the area where these traps were set." My blood ran cold. I remembered walking home, talking to Sarah, completely oblivious to the danger surrounding me. I didn't see anything," I stammered. "I was on the phone. but I swear I didn't see any traps. They checked my phone records, confirming my conversation with Sarah. They spoke to my boss, who verified my night shift. Hours later, I was released. The officer explained that they were satisfied I had no involvement in setting the traps. I was shaken, but relieved. As I walked out of the station, I replayed the previous night in my head. I'd walked straight through a field of deadly traps, narrowly missing each one. Centimeters, that's all it was. A madman, intent on maiming innocent people, and I'd walked right through it. I'd had a lucky escape. A very lucky escape. I think I will take the bus from now on.